Live, late-breaking, investigative. CBS 5 News at noon starts right now.
You are looking live at downtown Phoenix, where right now a rally is underway as people push for immigration reform.
USA! USA! USA!
Quite a turnout. That rally kicked off bright and early from the state fairgrounds. Thousands of people met, then marched to the state capitol in hopes their message is heard loud and clear.
Because this is, to keep our country from going downhill, which is happening right now.
And once there at the Capitol, those marchers met their opposition, people pushing to tighten the current immigration laws and even push for new ones. We'll have more on the march in just a moment.
Now back to our top story, today's massive immigrant march. CBS 5 News has got you covered with complete live team coverage.
Here we go. Jeannie Herworth is with the opposition. Sarah Carlstrom was at the fairgrounds when the rally began, and she actually walked with the marchers. But first, let's go to Marcy Valenzuela, downtown Phoenix, where the crowd is gathered at the state capitol. Marcy, give us your perspective.
Well, Mike, they've been saying all along to expect a crowd of between 5,000 and 10,000 people. And at first, I got to tell you, it started off really slow. We thought that the organizers were going to be a little disappointed. But as it turned out, people started picking up. Steadily, the numbers went up. And now there's an estimated 10,000 plus out here. There you can see a view from News Hawk that it's just really a sea of white T-shirts and people carrying American flags. And while it's still nothing in comparison to last year's march, in which there was more than 100,000 people who showed up for that, these people here are just as passionate. They're calling for fair and just immigration reform that would include a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants already in this country. And they want to see an end to federal immigration raids and deportation, in which tens of thousands have now been arrested just in the last year. Now, we talked to a few of them as they were making their way here to the Capitol, and here's what they had to say.
And beyond our expectations, we really want to thank our people for responding once again. And again, it shows that it's not the individual, it's not the organization, it's the desire of the people to be heard.
Just wanted to see that we come here to work. We're not here to stall nothing. We're here to help. We're here to support. We're raised here with our kids, and we want just to have a success life.
Now, again, they just arrived here at the Capitol about, say, the last 20 minutes or so, and they're just beginning their rally out here. Different people are now speaking here at the podium. They tell me that they're going to make this a very quick rally. They don't want it to go beyond an hour, and different people are already going up there and speaking. We had a student come up just a little while ago, and that's one of the big things for a lot of the students who were brought to this country by their parents illegally, many of them coming at the age of, toddlers, and because of their parents' immigration status, they, once they graduate high school, are not able to go on to college, and they're not able to work legally in this country. So that is a very big issue for them. They got up there and spoke. One of the students spoke in Spanish, and we did hear a couple of counter-protesters saying, speak English. We don't want to hear you speaking in Spanish. But other than that, it has been very peaceful out here. Again, people still speaking at this podium right now. We will be out here for the entire rally, and we'll report back to you coming up in our later newscasts at 5. Mike, Diane.
Hey, Marcy, while we have you, you said there was a sea of white shirts there. Do you have any ideas, or is there an actual count? Anybody close to how many marchers there actually were?
How many people are actually here? They're saying that they believe it is far exceeding the 10,000 people that they were expecting. They said anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 people. They brought out all sorts of water, porta potties, everything to prepare for this crowd, and it looks like they've exceeded that.
All right.
Marcy, thank you very much. And of course, we've got to be concerned about the weather out there. We're going to touch on that back with Randy in just a bit. There is another side to the immigration issue, those who want to secure the border and make sure everyone here in this country entered legally.
Well, the group called United for a Sovereign America is also at the state capitol. So is CBS 5's Jeannie Herworth. She joins us live with that part of the story, and it's a peaceful opposition, I'm hoping, Jeannie.
Yes, it is. Good afternoon, Mike and Diana. We're about a block away from where Marcy was standing, right kitty corner here to the Capitol. And what you're looking at here is all of the participants for the rally. A lot of them are leaving, not staying after they marched here. Now, just To the south of them, you can see some signs. There's a lot of chanting going on because that is where the opposition group is on the House lawn. You can see a sign that says deport. So there's a little bit of chanting going on back and forth, but as far as we can tell, it is peaceful. The opponents or opposition folks, they don't consider themselves protesters. They claim they don't want any confrontation. They just set up the area on the House lawn to educate and ask support to uphold the law. They are called United for a Sovereign America. They're serving apple pie and ice cream and hosting speakers to talk about laws that have recently gone through the House and have been cleared to go to the voters. They're also collecting signatures on other initiatives in case they are vetoed by the governor. The initiatives include tougher sanctions for employers who knowingly hire illegal immigrants, and also for law enforcement to be able to ask for proof of citizenship. Members claim they are not, or they, excuse me, are about enforcing our laws. They are not anti-immigrants.
We believe this country was made of immigrants, and an immigrant who comes here lawfully will make a good citizen. If they come here outside the law, everything else they have to do is outside the law.
We abide by the laws, and that's what we stand for, the rule of law. And we've been portrayed as being protesters or counter-protesters for this event, and that's not correct.
There is a side to this immigration issue that basically wants our government, local, state, and federal, to enforce the laws, and that's really the bottom line.
Now, there was a man dressed in camouflage who was badgering one of the speakers. He was asked to leave the immediate area. Other than that, the gathering has seemed to be peaceful so far. There was law enforcement on hand. There still are in case they are needed, but everyone so far has seemed fairly well behaved. This group will be out here until 1 o'clock on the House lawn. Of course, you can see the thousands of participants from the rally making their way through the street here at 17th Avenue and Adams. Again, several signs being held and some chanting going on back and forth. But there is a lot of police presence out here. We have seen mounted police, and then if Jack can pan over here to my left, there is also officers with the Phoenix Police Department standing by. So far, so good out here, and we're getting a little bit of rain from Mother Nature to cool things off. Diana, Mike, back to you.
And Jeannie, let me ask you this. Last year there was concern about a lot of students skipping school and being part of either one of these events. Have you seen a lot of students out there? Have you heard anything from teachers or?
I haven't heard anything from teachers, Diana, but just by looking at the crowd, there are a lot of youngsters, a lot of school-age people here, a lot of teenagers as well, and I would imagine they would have had to have skipped school to be out here today.
Yeah. Okay, Jeannie, thanks very much.
You bet.
And today's march and rally in downtown Phoenix means several streets are either closed or restricted.
We want to go back up to News Talk 5 and Connie Sullivan with more on the areas to avoid. Connie?
Hey, thanks, Diana. As we show you these pictures, it looks like there's still several people at the rally, but what we did notice is a lot of them passed it up on Adams coming off of Washington, and they're now northbound on 19th Avenue. So it's closed between Adams and McDowell as these people make their way back to the Coliseum. So just avoid the downtown area altogether, 19th Avenue to 7th Street. Now back to you guys.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that situation too. Thanks very much, Connie. Now, continuing our live team coverage, organizers hope to see as many as 10,000 people take to the streets today. A lot of people out there.
But they were also worried that the heat might keep people away. And I think maybe it did in some cases, but Sarah Carlstrom has been at the State Fairgrounds since this all began early this morning. Sarah, things started off kind of slowly. Did the rally ever actually gain some steam, in your opinion?
It actually did. You heard Marcy talk about it. It did start off slowly. I was here all morning long. At 8 o'clock, we saw, probably less than 1,000 people. A half an hour later, that number had more than doubled. And then when the rally actually started, the streets were lined with thousands of more people making their way to the state capitol. We've heard the words before, si se puede, yes we can. And once again, marchers want lawmakers to know they want immigration reform.
It means a worker program that is protected by all the labor laws of the United States for people who want to come to work. It is the legalization of people who have already made lives in the United States. It is a securing of our borders.
While there were only a couple thousand people at the beginning of this rally, more joined throughout the route, each with their own reason for being involved, with their own reason for wanting to be here.
We want everybody to know that the students, immigrant students, we could graduate and we could do it. They don't need to stop us.
Yes, we can.
This march looked a little different than what we've seen in the past. The only flags flying high today were red, white, and blue.
It's your flag, but it's our flag too. We want to adopt in this country. We want to be in this country. We are part of this country.
Back live now, talking about the weather. Organizers were so worried it'd be too hot that they actually bumped up the rally by a half an hour to avoid the heat. Obviously, maybe you can see the raindrops right now. It has cooled off tremendously, actually making it a more pleasant day to march. Reporting live in Phoenix, Sarah Karlstrom, CBS 5 News.
Live, late-breaking, investigative. CBS 5 News at 6:30 starts right now.
With their voices and their feet, thousands of demonstrators show up in the valley to promote change.
Good evening, I'm Catherine Anaya.
And I'm Kent Dana. The Day Without Immigrants is winding down in the valley and across the country. Some 60 cities took part today.
Some held massive marches through major roadways of large cities. Others took a smaller demonstration like the ones we saw right here. People also formed human chains at 4 locations in the valley today. 2 of them at the Home Depots at 75th Avenue in McDowell and 36th Street in Thomas. Another human chain took place at the IFCO Company. That's the site of a recent immigration raid at 59th Avenue in Jefferson. The 4th human chain was held at Trevor Brown High School at 75th Avenue and Thomas. Now, the streets were lined up with hundreds of people who peacefully spread their message. Many started arriving before 9 this morning, but it didn't take long for people on both sides of this political fence to speak up.
It's having an impact, but again, we're following the advice of President Bush. Keep the pressure on Congress to get the job done.
I think these demonstrations actually hurt their cause more than it helps their cause.
Now, many companies around the country were expecting to be without workers today. To some, it was a surprise. We talked to the owner of Snappy Lawn Service. 37 workers did not show up, leaving all of his work trucks idle.
Well, I expected not to have a few guys, but I didn't have any guys in this morning. So we're just basically shut down today.
But for many, it was business as usual. CBS 5's Christina Wofford is live now with more. Christina?
Well, this food city remained open today for its largely Hispanic customer base, but it did report a slight decrease in business. Many students, though, stayed home from school today. The Osborne Elementary School District in Central Phoenix reports more than 1,300 students were absent today. That's about a third of its enrollment. And at construction sites where the boycott may have been the most visible, work was stopped. The mostly immigrant workforce will make up the work here on Saturday. Still, many people are realizing more than one day without an immigrant could be trouble.
You know, I think it's important to our economy and, you know, just everybody in general for it. I mean, there are a lot of our service industries and stuff like that you know, these folks are helping us out with.
Now, many people expected the resort industry here in the valley to be hard hit. I called several hotels and they said their workers showed up today as normal. And I also contacted the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They say the resorts that they contacted reported business as usual. Reporting live in Phoenix, I'm Christina Wofford, CBS 5 News.
Tonight on 3 TV, team coverage of the stories making today's headlines.
I'm Tyler Baldwin. Thousands take to the streets in protest over 1070, crashing their party. A couple of 1070 supporters who brought with them loaded weapons. Good evening, Arizona.
And I'm Jared Dillingham with the other side of the debate in Tempe, where tonight Tea Party activists and other supporters of 1070 are converging for a big rally. Good evening, Arizona.
It's the National Day of Action against SB 1070. A 2-hour rally at Indian Steel Park was followed by a march to the state capitol and passionate speeches from community leaders.
Racial profiling began in 1492.
Well, I've read the bill. I've read the bill several times. Now I tell all those critics, have you read the Constitution?
The protesters brought flags and armed themselves with signs of disapproval. A few 1070 supporters showed up. They had flags as well, but instead of signs, they simply armed themselves.
Where on the planet is there one country that's for white people? There's not. See, we have nowhere to go.
One 1070 supporter was wearing a shirt with the words White People's Party. The other said he was with the National Socialist Movement and was a big fan of Hitler.
He was a great white civil rights leader. You're absolutely right. Gave his life for white people.
When asked why they brought loaded guns to this event, they said they needed to defend themselves and were ready to fire.
Remember the Alamo, that's what I say.
So you're prepared to use the weapon?
Absolutely. We're not out here for show.
Protesters feel 1070 was written by people with similar views. The organization FAIR co-authored the bill. FAIR is categorized by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group.
These folks are known white supremacists. Now, I don't mean to say that anybody who supports 1070 agrees with those views. That is not the case. But it's important for people to know that there are folks in this country who feel that way, and they were the authors of this bill. They're trying to make their views mainstream, and that's a very insidious and frightening thing.
It's a major event for the Pro-1070 movement, a rally bringing people from across the country to Arizona.
1,224.5 miles.
We spotted Butch Marsalis right away. He and his wife drove in from Texas.
Just to show up. Sometimes the letters just kind of get washed over, and if we can just be one more, then that's why we came.
We came to support Arizona.
Same goes for Gizzy Schilling and her husband in from St. Louis.
We'll probably be here for a week, maybe 2 weeks.
And Reno resident Gia Gallegos, all complete strangers with one thing in common. They're here to boost an economy that's been boycotted by those on the other side of this debate.
I'm really disappointed at how readily people are condemning a state that's still one of the 50 in the union.
So they're spending their hard-earned cash here.
We don't have a lot of money, but we're going to stay in a hotel and eat in restaurants.
Yes, ma'am. We spent here 3 nights, even had my car service.
Our economy is going to keep building, the more controversy. So I say more. I'll cause more controversy. I guarantee you, in the next 2 months. So they want to keep coming back. It's great.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio, one of the guest speakers here tonight. We caught up with him to talk 1070 before he hit the podium. And with comments like this,
when they can't get you on everything else, they have to throw the race card. That's it. So they throw the race card at the sheriff.
We don't doubt the controversy from Arpaio will just keep coming. In the meantime, he joins the president of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association and other supporters of the new law here.
We're here because we got your back. We're here to put dollars in your back pocket because you stood up for us.
Making sure their message isn't lost in the anti-1070 shuffle.
Bringing tens of thousands of people together takes a lot of organizing.
The march won't start in a while. If you please get behind those gates over there.
Just to be safe, Abraham Baez and his family got there early.
We came all the way from San Diego.
Despite a boycott of Arizona, the Baez family came here. But time is the only thing they say they'll be spending.
We came since yesterday. And we had to stay on the car to sleep and everything because we're not supposed to spend money right here.
You can only imagine how tight sleeping arrangements must have been.
My group, we come with whole family. We are 8 right now.
8 of some 30,000 people whose persistent protests have made our new illegal immigration enforcement law one of the most controversial topics in the country.
I think it's a beautiful turnout, man. These people need this.
There was at least one person waiting at the Capitol looking to intimidate the protesters, a man with a loaded shotgun. Police did a good job of separating him from the rest of the crowd, so everything stayed peaceful.
There can be no doubt Arizona's border remains broken, but some 14 months since the murder of an Arizona rancher unleashed a torrent of finger-pointing, unprecedented lawmaking, protesting, and party bickering, the game has changed.
We had to do something. We had to stand up. If the feds aren't going to do the job.
No, they said we needed to triple the border patrol, or they'll want a higher fence.
But it's not about jobs anymore.
Illegal immigrant apprehensions is at less than half right now of what it was at its peak.
It's about crime.
The violence that has literally destabilized Mexico is here in the United States.
Our guns and money go south.
We cannot have a situation where guns are allowed to walk.
While smugglers and their drugs come north.
I certainly do agree with the chairman's bill to designate cartels as terrorist organizations.
And fugitives from both sides seem to cross almost unchecked.
They're habitual offenders, and unfortunately, those are people that we simply don't want in this country.
The stakes in the border war have never been higher.
We still have ammunition and policies and laws to continue to enforce.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special presentation of Arizona's broken borders from CBS 5 News. I'm Steve McLaughlin, live in Nogales.
And I'm Tammy Leitner. Over the next half hour, we promise to tell it like it is about the border battle, what's working and what's not, and what's changed over the last few years.
And according to some numbers that we just got our hands on today, a lot has changed. Check these numbers out. Illegal immigrant apprehensions have dropped across the southwest border from 1.6 million in the year 2000 to 448,000 in the year 2010. Murders in Phoenix have dropped 50% since 2003. The violent crime rate across the state is down, but violence associated with drug cartels is up.
So why is this important to you in the Valley? The violence is creeping in ever closer to the greater Phoenix area. Border Agent Brian Terry was gunned down about 15 miles north of Nogales. Reporter Morgan Lowe and I took you to the top of a mountain into the Cartel caves and ran into a suspected spotter for smugglers just halfway between the valley and the border. And we've taken you to the Vico Valley several times this year for stories on how smuggling has turned very violent. That's where Pinal County Deputy Louis Pearl says he was shot. As the crow flies, that's just 40 miles south of downtown Phoenix.
And Tammy, speaking of your 5 Investigates partner, Morgan Lowe, he's been actually looking into one specific area where somebody is actually doing something right to shut down illegal border traffic, and Morgan is actually getting some national attention.
Seeing the Yuma sector of the U.S. border with Mexico has seen a dramatic turnaround.
This used to be the busiest sector in the Southwest, with immigrants rushing across the border by the hundreds. But the new fence, stadium lighting, and cameras, and 900 agents have dropped the number of border crossers caught from 138,000 in 2005 to just over 7,000 last year.
You get the occasional small group that's easily workable. Rather than the 100, 150, 200 people just jumping over the fence trying to get in. But they're more manageable now.
Border Patrol agents say some nights it's tough to stay awake out there. But the deaths of 2 agents earlier this month while chasing suspected smugglers is a reminder that that is still dangerous business, even in an area where the Border Patrol is seeing success. Scene.
All right, thanks, Morgan. Back in Nogales here, you're going to see more fencing between the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, this area used to be covered by what they called landing mats, which they're essentially big pieces of sheet metal left over from Vietnam airfields. They actually blocked the view between the two countries, making it very difficult for agents to spot smugglers trying to cross over. But they're replacing it now with these very tall poles, making it easier to see and stop those trying to illegally enter the U.S. Well, here live in Nogales, there has been a lot of changes for folks living on the border over the past few years, from fence changes that you just saw to National Guard troops actually being deployed to the border last year. We sent our reporter, Elizabeth Irwin, to check out what life is really like down here along the border.
Well, see, it's something these people deal with every day, but quite frankly, it took rancher Rob Krentz's death to really bring this to light and make people focus on the issue. It is constantly changing down here, from the type of people who are crossing the border to the number of folks trying to stop these illegal immigrants from coming into our country. It's pretty much a border battle for these people, for these southern Arizona ranchers, that they fight every day.
Our family's been ranching here in southern Arizona along the border since about 1938.
Dan Bell has seen it all.
It's not like it was in the days of old where we had migrants looking for work. We've got this other element of smuggling.
That's just one of many changes lately. There used to be National Guard posts throughout his property from the Obama administration's deployment of troops last August. But they're all pulling out now. They'll be gone completely by the 1st of June.
Kind of raising some concerns for us.
And then there's this, an access road built right along Bell's side of the border fence. It'll help Border Patrol agents keep a closer eye on folks trying to cross.
Presence will make all the difference in the world.
All this extra effort is bittersweet. The sheer number of people crossing over has plummeted, but the type of people is becoming an even bigger problem.
We're still getting a lot of the smuggling, though, and evidence of the drug smugglers coming through.
Bell's had 2 shootings nearby in just the past few months, both involving Border Patrol Patrol agents, one ending in the death of Agent Brian Terry.
That was just north of our ranch on our neighbors, and you know, most likely the people that did that came through our ranch.
Scary, but it's just a part of life for the people who make their living along the fence.
You never know what you're going to come across when you're out here now.
Now, just to make it clear for our viewers, is it the best he's seen it or the worst he's seen it?
Well, see, it's kind of half and half because there are less people crossing the border, but the amount of violence that Dan sees every day just keeps going up, and he doesn't expect that's going to change anytime soon.
All right, Elizabeth Irwin, thanks for that report. Let me take you to the busiest spot in Nogales right now. Of course, it's the port of entry between the U.S. and Mexico. About 15,000 people pass through here every day, whether on foot or by car. And U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents find drugs, guns, dirty money, you name it, being funneled from one country into the other.
The consumption is here, okay? The money is here. If we don't stop that ourselves here, well, they're still going to start bringing it across.
Now, that is the mayor of Nogales giving us the straight story of the crux of the border battle. But he wants to win the war with talk and trade between the two countries. We're going to explain how your money is involved. That's all coming up. Now, Tammy joins us back live here in Nogales, right along the fence right behind us. And the people that are tasked with protecting our border right behind us, keeping us safe, I mean, they're always trying new tactics.
That's right. See, now earlier this year, I got a chance to ride with a very elite group that has a wild weapon that they use to track down drug and human smugglers.
We're riding through some of the roughest terrain along Arizona's border with Mexico. Crashing through trees.
Oh, please.
Trying to stay in the saddle as we chase down a group of drug smugglers with the U.S. Border Patrol.
They say the only way to get into this area is on foot or by horseback, and I now see why.
This is an elite unit on a hazardous mission.
You know, there's a million hiding places out here.
But the agents are only part of the story. You see, it's the horses that make patrolling this part of the border even possible. And these horses are special.
They're very, very hardy, rugged, big-boned, big-footed horses. So they're incredible for this terrain.
Supervisory Agent Bobby Schott is talking about the wild Mustangs the Border Patrol is now using in southern Arizona.
Yes, ma'am.
Mustangs are one of the few large animals still roaming the Wild West. The Mustang's untamed spirit and ingrained toughness make them a natural fit for patrolling these rugged, cactus-strewn Arizona mountains.
There you go. He is all yours.
They've invited CBS 5 Investigates to head out on patrol after we pass a riding test.
There you go.
I pass?
Yes.
All right.
20 minutes later, we're unloading the animals in an active smuggling corridor. From here, we head south towards the border and into a canyon system that hides smugglers from view and prevents border agents from using their radios to communicate with each other. Bottom line, we're on our own.
When the Horse Patrol first started working this area, there were literally hundreds of people crossing this very spot every single day.
Pictures the agents have taken show the results of the Horse Patrol efforts. The Mustangs help the agents round up smugglers and illegal immigrants. As they ride these rugged trails, they're constantly looking down on the ground, trying to spot footprints hidden in the dirt and brush.
They'll put carpet on their feet, they'll drag blankets behind them.
The smugglers we're tracking now are not so concerned about covering their tracks. You see, they're marching south, which means they've already dropped their loads and are heading home light and fast. We're hoping the horses can catch them, but after hiking ahead, Agent Derek has some bad news.
Dead end?
Yes.
As we make our way back to the horse trailers, it looks like the smugglers won this round.
The southbound smugglers that we saw appeared to be about a day old, so I imagine they're already back in Mexico.
But with the help from these sure-footed Mustangs, the next round may be different.
Just hope to get them next time.
Now, these wild Mustangs are trained by inmates in Colorado State that are serving time for burglary and other crimes. After they train them, they send them here to Arizona, and they're what's called green broke, which means they're not completely fully trained.
So much for your first time on the horse. Great job. Well, we've got so much more to come here live from Nogales on this CBS 5 News special, Arizona Broken Borders. In fact, we're going high in the mountains to catch suspected smugglers at work. Plus,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, and I certainly do agree with the Chairman's bill to designate cartels as terrorist organizations.
That's Arizona's top cop on Capitol Hill talking cartels, terrorism, and blame. Coming up after the break, find out if Tom Horne thinks anyone was listening. And the Arizona mayor who wants to talk to the president about the border tells us why. Welcome back, everyone. We are live in Nogales, right along the border of Arizona and Mexico for this special edition of CBS 5 News tonight. Arizona's broken border. You know, this border battle, a lot of finger pointing back and forth from Washington all the way out here to Arizona. In fact, Arizona Attorney General Tom Horne delivered a pretty clear, frank message on Capitol Hill just last week.
That's right, Scene. And since Horne was elected back in November, his message has not changed. The federal government is failing. Now, earlier you had a chance to sit down with Horne, is that correct?
We did. In fact, I sat down with the state's top cop to ask a very simple question. Do you think anyone was listening to his desperate message?
I'm contradicting the message from the Obama administration that the border is safe. Or that it's the safest it's ever been, or even jokes about alligators and so on. The border is not the safest it's ever been. It's the most dangerous because the cartels have gotten ever more violent. In the Tucson sector alone, over 400,000 people have crossed illegally. And the percentage that have criminal backgrounds has more than doubled in the last 5 years, from 8% to 17%. Along with those people come members of the drug cartels. They're engaged not only in distributing drugs, but they're involved in all kinds of illegal activity now, and they're in all the cities, major cities in the United States, coming through Tucson. Over 600 people that have been arrested at the border come from the Middle East. So it's a national security problem.
So the Obama administration has been very consistent and very clear for the last several years that at no such time has there ever been a higher presence of the federal government.
Well, they've increased the number of border guards, but it's still insufficient. A chain is no stronger than its weakest link. So if you have a weak link, in this case the weak link is Tucson, everything else you do is completely useless because it just redirects traffic to that weak link. We've got to strengthen the border at Tucson in order to get control over our border.
So physically, what needs to be done? You talked about more or a better wall, more fencing, and talk about the FOBs, the forward operating bases.
So a lot of our border guards now are back from the border. If you put them in forward operating bases right on the border, and you have them every 12 miles, which is a reasonable length to patrol and to get there when people cross, it would need more border guards. It would need more money to build structures for them, but it would help us protect the border.
Now, when you say the term forward operating bases, for your generation, people think of that was the strategy in Vietnam. For my generation, that's the strategy in Afghanistan. I mean, is it that bad? Are we comparing our state to those two places?
No, we just want to guard our border. I don't think those comparisons mean anything.
You talked about the drug violence. What is fueling that drug violence? Is it America's insatiable appetite for drugs, and is it the drug dealer on Van Buren that's the problem, or is it the professional in Scottsdale that whips out the bong maybe every Friday or Saturday for a good time on the weekend? Which is the major problem?
Well, what we've been talking about in terms of enforcing the border is to try to get at the supply of drugs. Equally important is the demand for drugs. If you buy marijuana or other drugs, that money is going directly to vicious drug cartels that use it for things like kidnapping public officials and murdering people and beheadings, and that's a really good reason, aside from their own health, to not put money into the hands of the drug cartels.
So it's the recreational use here in Arizona, yes, across the country, that's the main problem.
That's absolutely correct.
And boy, Tammy, he is adamant about the recreational use across Arizona and across the Southwest. That's what's fueling this need to get drugs across the border. And in fact, right over the hill right now, the U.S. Border Patrol on a very active search for, who knows, maybe it might be an illegal crosser, or it could be a member of the drug cartel trying to make one of those smuggling drops.
But Scene, it's not just the land along the border right here where we are that the cartels are using.
Right, exactly. In fact, you and Morgan got up close and personal with someone that was actually spotting for the cartel last fall.
That's right, Scene. We went into the mountains that were just south of the valley. We really wanted to see how many different caves and bunkers there were that the cartel were using. And I can tell you, the rough terrain out there, the mountains, the caves, the rocks, they really use those to their advantage.
The peak is 2,500 feet above sea level, sticking straight up in the middle of the flat desert. It's a perfect lookout spot.
We've got power.
We're getting ready for a rugged and dangerous climb.
I got my snake guards on. I hope they actually help. It's not just smugglers we're concerned about. It's also the heat, the terrain, and the rattlesnakes. This time of year, just hiking through the Arizona desert is a challenge in itself. According to the Sheriff's Department and residents out here, the cave is somewhere up that face, and we're going to try and get up there before it gets dark. Once we start the climb, the air temperature and steep grade have an immediate effect.
This is tough. How are you feeling?
I'd like to think I'm in shape, but this is tough. I mean, imagine being out here in the dark.
There's got to be a reason for them to be up here.
As we climb higher, we begin to see garbage, a sure sign that someone's been here before and not just passing through. An hour after leaving the vehicle, we find what we're looking for.
Right down here.
Found it?
It's one of the spots.
What makes you so certain?
Take a look.
It's part of a network of caves and bunkers apparently used by drug cartel scouts. This is incredible. There's so much food and garbage and blankets. They were protected from the elements with the tarps, probably. Sleeping bag to stay warm. So I'm guessing what they did was they would get down here. Nobody can see them over this wall here, yet they can see all the way out there. They can see anybody driving by, walking up.
You can definitely see why they chose this spot. Anyone standing here would be able to see the Border Patrol or authorities coming from the roads in that direction. They could also guide in their shipments of drugs from Mexico.
The sun is already setting, and the long shadow created by the mountain is getting even longer. That means we need to start thinking about hiking down. I'm taking pictures when something ominous catches my eye. Take a look at this. Shell casing from a bullet. Ooh. Not a good sign.
It's a reminder that the people who were living here were dangerous. But before we head back down, I want to see if there's anything we missed, so I hike ahead by myself.
I'm following a trail, if you can call it a trail.
My camera captures what happens next.
Oh! Hey, perdón. Periodistas. No está problema, okay?
I've run face to face into someone hiding in another cave.
Can you bring the camera up here?
Yep.
Is he a smuggler? We don't know, but he agrees to talk to us on camera as long as we hide his face.
Do you know that the sheriff's office raided this very mountain just a few days ago?
No.
Because they were saying that drug smugglers were hiding out up here.
If I know, why should I stay here?
You've got a cell phone and a battery there. I mean, they tell us that that's what drug smugglers use. Is that?
Oh no, that makes a Mexican phone.
He tells us he's been crossing the desert heading for Phoenix, then Sacramento.
And I thought it would be easy, but yes, I took the wrong summertime. This is too hot.
After the interview, we stopped to get our bearings.
And the first thing I thought was, oh no, this is a smuggler, and we're dead.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you know, this does tell us one thing. This is a very active spot. Even after sheriff's deputies showed up here, 2 days later, there's somebody up here. As we head down the mountain, now in the dark, we suspect we've just interviewed a smuggler. We feel lucky to be getting down this mountain at all. Now, what we saw up there really shows how drug smugglers are adapting their approach.
You and Morgan had a little surprise up there on the mountain. We have a little surprise right behind us on this mountain. An active search right now with U.S. Border Patrol. Not a lot to see, just a bunch of flashlights on a dark hill. We're going to keep an eye on that because coming up, could tourism, trade, and commerce boost the state's sagging economy and solve the border problem? You're going to meet one optimistic mayor that thinks so. That's coming up.
Welcome back. Now, when we hear about border violence, Nogales is often labeled as the center of it all.
Yeah, we both spoke to the mayor of this city, and he says that is absolutely not true. And in fact, with the help of the president and your tax money, he wants to take this battered border town and turn it into a financial boom town.
Right now, we only have 2 lanes coming across for commercial traffic and 2 lanes for vehicular traffic. No pedestrian. Well, the new port is going to have 21 lanes. and 8 of them are going to be for commercial. So it's going to double the commerce across. So it's going to benefit the whole region.
That's what $200 million of federal stimulus, otherwise known as your tax dollars, buys you in Nogales. Mayor Guarino says it's important to change the statewide perception of his city.
We've been taking a lot from different areas of our state, saying that our city is our border is out of control, it's a war zone and stuff, which is not true.
The mayor also points out crime in his city is down 22%, but the appetite for drugs is still there.
The consumption is here, okay? The money is here. If we don't stop that ourselves here, well, they're still going to start bringing it across.
And in the meantime, the mayor of Nogales wants state politicians to stop looking at his city as the center of the border war, but as the center of the economic solution for our state. And on top of his personal invitation to President Obama, he has just 4 words for the president.
I told the president that I had his back, and I still have his back.
Now, I do want to mention we still have an active search going on behind us. We have border agents down there with flashlights, with dogs. We've heard some yelling, and so we're not sure if they found somebody or not.
We're going to continue to follow this story, but don't go away. We've got more live coverage from Nogales right along the Arizona-Mexico border right after this.
Welcome back. Now, over the last half hour and the last year and a half, we've been telling it like it is about Arizona's broken border.
Including over the last 30 minutes where there's actually been a live chase going on right behind us in the hill here in Nogales, right along the border. Border Patrol now just a couple 25 yards away from us, still on an active search, but things have calmed down considerably over the last 20 minutes or so. And you know, it's a great reminder of the men and women that put their lives on the line each and every day to help keep us safe. And it's also a good reminder of the lives lost in this border battle. In fact, just last week, law enforcement from across the country and around the world gathered to pay their last respects to Hector Clark and Eduardo Rojas Jr. They were tracking a group of drug smugglers when they were hit by a train. And this was the scene in Detroit last winter as 40-year-old Brian Terry was remembered and honored for his service. The man who served in the Marines died at the hands of a suspected drug smuggler in southern Arizona in December.
Now, we do want to thank all the dedicated men and women from the National Guard, the U.S. Border and Customs Patrol, and the hundreds of law enforcement that work with state and local agencies that protect us every single day.
And on behalf of all of us here at CBS 5 News, we thank you for joining us for this special edition of Arizona's Broken Borders. Have a great night.